Oh, hey, we're on. Excellent.
All right.
All right,
It
welcome
worked.
everybody. Yeah, it does work. We're working with a new thing here today. I'm with Mr. Justin Ashley. You're on the Recovery Mode podcast, Mr. Ashley. There, talking about recovery mode from pushboundconsulting.com. This is a video podcast that we're going through each chapter and each contributor of the recovery mode manuscript, book, whatever you want to call it. It is a free ebook that is being offered from pushboundconsulting.com. It's a 158-page free ebook to talk about what's going on with recovery mode, everything post-pandemic, everything, and what education is going to look like, what education is going to be like. And I'm here with my friend Justin Ashley, who definitely has been an influence on my life because when I was, and he doesn't know this, but when I was down and out, he wrote this amazing book called The Balanced Teacher Path that I had found that really kind of, settled me down in my first couple of years of education. So definitely that's a great thing. But before we get into and please thank you for being here, Justin. But before we get into what we're doing today, tell everybody who is Justin Ashley? Like, what are you all about? Like, how did you get to today when it comes to education?
Sure. Yeah. For me, starting out as a teacher, I started out in 2007. My real goal was to make learning engaging for students, to make it fun. And I kind of came in with that, whatever it takes, persona to be successful for my students. Worked for several years as an elementary school teacher, teaching history like yourself. And over time, I was able to have some success for my students. Kind of slowly work my way up the chain of having my students perform at a high level. Got a few Teacher of the Year awards, and thought that I should really be at the pinnacle of my career and should be happy. Unfortunately, in that process, I really lost every other aspect of my life. I was not being a good husband, was not a present father to my son, was not taking care of myself. I wasn't exercising, working 60 to 70 hours a week, and just not successful in any other area of my life. So after I was the North Carolina History Teacher of the Year, the next year after that, I had completely burned out from the profession, finished the school year, and voluntarily committed myself to rehab for depression, anxiety, and a prescription drug dependency. And that was really hitting the rock bottom, not only for my career, but in every domain of my life. So I came out of that and I said, okay, I got two options here. I can quit teaching, or I can change the way that I've been teaching and change my lifestyle. And that's where I came back and started pursuing happiness in every domain of my life, in my social life, in my financial life, in my physical and emotional life, and not just in my career as a teacher. And I started to not just look at how I should be as Mr. Ashley, but how I should be as Justin. And I was able to get back into the classroom, continue teaching, write a book about my recovery, and just really take things to the next level in my life and bounce back. So that's where I'm at today, as I'm trying not to be just an effective teacher, but also try to be an effective husband, an effective father. I box every day. I used to box before the pandemic. I box at home now. I was boxing in a gym, and exercising and really just taking care of myself. So I think now, instead of teaching for just a few years, I feel like I can teach for a few decades.
Excellent, and congratulations on coming back from that place in your life. I mean, that's going to be hard for anybody. I mean,
For sure.
Definitely. So, and 60, 70 hours a week, man, geez,
Dude, it was wild. I don't know how I survived it. And you start doing trainings, like you do trainings, like professional development sessions for other teachers. So that was an element to it. And just the grading, I would stay up, until 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, grading, writing lesson plans, reading about, education-based books. And it was all in, man. And the whatever it takes persona for kids does not last. It's not sustainable. So you've got to do what you can do within the context of your health, your family, and your finances. And then you're able to do it for the long term and not just for the short term.
Definitely. So how, with recovery mode and everything else, being asked to contribute to this fine manuscript that we have in front of us and everything else, like, where did you come from when you approached this? Like, where did you come from to really talk about your chapter, and tell me about what your chapter is about, and definitely what brought you to inspire to write this?
Yeah, definitely. So for me personally, I just love the Pushing Boundaries team. I feel like it's like a superhero team or an all-star team of educators and education leaders. I'm basically the water boy on the team. Like, I'm not at the level that a lot of people are.
I'm the water. I haven't written a book yet. I'm the water.
We're the Bobby Bouchers of this Pushing Boundaries team. But I'll take it, man. I'm just glad to be a part of it. And when I was asked to contribute, the first thing I thought about with Recovery Mode is this idea of acceptance. I had my best friend recently pass away a few months ago, and that's where the beginning of the chapter begins. That's where it starts, is talking about the death of my best friend and the process of grieving through that. Because to me, this is a process of grief for teachers, for students, for parents. It's the grief of what we thought this year was going to look like. It's the grief of what education has been in the past. And it's the grief of that relationship that we've had with students, with parents, with our communities, and losing that, at least temporarily. So that's where I started it. Is let's go into this with some acceptance. Let's begin here, accepting where we are. Not that it's where we want to be, but let's begin, and let's use that as our launching pad as we move forward.
Okay, very good, very good. I mean, and I'm sorry to hear about your friend.
I appreciate it.
Definitely, and it's just that definitely during this time is something that you never want to go through. So
Sure.
we were cutting it up a little bit before we jumped on. How do you think this is going to look come the fall? I mean, what do you think as an educator? I mean, you said you're from North Carolina. I'm in Chicago. I mean, right. What do you think this is going to look like come fall?
I think we're going to see a mix of the old school and the new school, based on the sources that I've talked with and what I'm hearing from a few different education leaders, is that we may have a mixture of traditional, students are going to school, they're learning at a desk, and then the next day they're going home, they're doing remote learning, and they're working through the computer virtually. So I think it may be a mixture of it. I think we're going to hopefully see smaller class sizes so we can space those students out. I've got 33 kids in my current class. For each of my classes, 33 or 34. So there is a lot of puberty going on in my room, and I'm telling you, it's really tight. It's really sweaty. And I teach in a trailer. I teach in a villa. I currently teach 8th grade. So I'm hoping that the class sizes go down. We can space students and give them that 6 feet space apart from each other, and implement some of these CDC recommendations to make sure that students are safe, teachers are safe. I think it's just going to look a lot different, and it's hard to tell what that will be. But yeah, I'm ready for a challenge.
I mean, do you think like the smaller class sizes and the spacing and everything else, do you think that's going to work? Because like my class sizes are 20 to 30, and I don't know if I could space 6 feet for 20 kids on tables. Like, some of my classrooms have tables. I mean, some classrooms have desks, some classrooms. I mean, do you think it's feasible to think that we'll reinvent the whole wheel to like marginalize it down from 6 feet each? I mean, I hope it could work, and I'm very optimistic, but it's just, I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
I don't know how they're going to do it either. It's going to take a lot of innovation from the state government. It's going to take some innovations from the local bodies, and also the federal government. We're going to need more teachers. We're going to need more classrooms. We're going to need more space if they want us to carry out these recommendations. It's just going to have to happen that way. We may have staggered times where we have certain classes or certain grade levels coming in earlier, and then some coming in a little bit later. There are all kinds of possible solutions to some of these problems, and no one seems like a perfect solution. There's just some things that we're going to have to try out. It's going to be an experiment, and we're going to have to do our best to make it work, and it's going to take some time to figure it out for sure. Definitely.
It's just with the one-to-one school. I mean, are you guys in remote learning as well? Like,
we are. Yes.
How's,
Yeah, we're
how's it going for you guys? I mean, it just seems like everyone has different experiences about like this remote learning model and everything else. I mean, is it working for you guys in your district? And
I mean, it's I would say optimally, it's not perfect for sure, but we're making the most of it. We're making the best that we can in this time. It's I maybe have about 80% of the students, 70 or 80%, completing the work on time, doing a decent job of it. But it doesn't have the same feel. You know this,
yeah,
Robert. I mean, just from the energy that you have in the classroom that you can create in a class debate, a lively discussion, or a game that you're playing in class, you don't have that same feel. You can't really create that in a virtual meeting or environment. So it's just so different. It really just doesn't feel as much like teaching. So I'm ready to get back to the classroom once we're allowed and once it's safe. I'm ready to see my kids, whether I do a hug from a distance or a high five. I mean, with the glove on, I just miss being up there and being beside my students and being with them so much.
I think what this whole thing, and agree or disagree with me on this one. I think it really shows that we're necessary. Like everyone has always said that it's like, oh, you can learn from a computer, you can do credit recovery. Like in my high school, there's a credit recovery program and everything else. But if you don't have teachers with structure and everything else to create the experience and have the experience for them to have, what's the point then? Like, what's the purpose? It's just, I think really that we need to, people have to revisit. They're like, well, why do we need teachers? I think this is showing why we need teachers. I think this is showing why we need us in the classroom to provide, because I have so many students. It's just like, I have to physically call them and be like, where's the work? Like, and these are high school students.
Your phone bill is going to be outrageous.
Like, where's the work? It's like, you need to turn in this work, and I'm calling and I'm using Remind and I'm using email and I'm using everything. And I'm like, you have this device, and it's like, we've been gone for 2 months, and it's just, and I miss them terribly as well. It's just, I don't know, come fall, I don't know. Are we all going to wear masks? Are they going to wear masks? It's just such an unknown time. I just think they're creating history. We're in history right now. I think the history books that are going to be written in, the years to come are going to have this and just be like, hey, you're part of this. You're part of what's going on. So I like to keep these short and sweet, wrapping it up in under about 15 minutes. When it comes to this, what's next for Justin Ashley? What's next for you? Are you going to go? And did I read somewhere that you are a motivational speaker as well?
I do a little speaking on the side. Yeah, it's a little side hustle. I had a few events booked. Minneapolis. We were going to Minnesota. There were a couple places, and unfortunately those got canceled with the pandemic. But
of course,
yeah. So I'm really focusing my energy right now on the classroom, possibly releasing a sequel to the Balanced Teacher Path. Yeah. And tailoring it for students, school life balance for kids, for middle schoolers and high schoolers, because that's something that hasn't really been tapped into yet. And I've had a lot of students reach out to me and say, hey, I read your book and it was really helpful for me as I was going through this in college, but I wish we could have something that was directly for students. So maybe do that. That's something I'm looking into, and really focusing on the family right now. A lot of walking, a lot of nature trails, cycling. I got a bike. So still creating that movement and staying with the exercise and trying to stay on a schedule as much as possible.
So being an educator, I have to ask, of all the educators I've talked to, how many books have you read while you've been down? I've gone through at least 3 or 4. How many books have you gone through? You've gone through 1 or 2.
Oh, easily, man. So I cheat because I read the books and I do Audible. So I do the audio books and the traditional reading. So I would say I'm upwards of 10 or 15 by now with those two together.
Oh God, I'm 3 or 4, 10 or 15.
You got to do the audio, man, because you can just listen to it while you walk, but yeah. It's The Pursuit of Perfect has been one of my favorites. It's helped me keep things in perspective, right? Like I said earlier, trying to look at things from an optimal perspective rather than a perfectionist. What can we do in this environment, right? What can we do to the best of our ability with the resources that we have right now, with the tools that we have right now? Instead of focusing on what we don't have and what we can't do, what can we do in this moment, in this day, to make this the best day possible, and for our students, for ourselves, for our families? What's
Now,
in front of us?
with having the author of The Balanced Teacher Path, I mean, what would you say to those teachers as we close this out today? What would you say to those teachers who are finding it difficult with, because a lot of teachers are with their profession, it's their identity. It's their identity of being an educator, and not being able to go to the classroom. I've read several places that it's been hurting teachers' mental health are in question. I mean, what would you say to those teachers to kind of give them like a ray of hope or something to kind of look at to say, hey, it's not so bad because, we're all in this together. We're all trying this different aspect. What would you say to those teachers to try and give them that guidance to say, hey, it's going to be okay?
Sure. So Benjamin Franklin has this quote that he may or may not have said, and it's something to the extent of the Constitution and the Declaration. These documents only give you the right to pursue happiness, but it's up to you to catch it. It's up to you to catch it. And it's very elusive right now as teachers for how we could catch happiness, because it's just flipped upside down. Our schedules have flipped upside down, our responsibilities, everything is so different and moving so quickly. So for me, catching it, I would say if you're struggling with it, I'm struggling with it too. Many of us are struggling with it. And there are some skillful ways to navigate this time, and there's some unskillful ways to navigate it. And the skillful way is to really pursue happiness, to pursue success in every domain of your life, not just in teaching, not just in the classroom, but also in your finances, also in your mental health, your physical health, and in your social health. Okay, you can find happiness in each one of those domains, and you can take a step back during this time, as much free time as we have, and try to find some goals that you can set in each one of those four domains of your life. Okay, what can you do with the budget right now? How can you create a budget? How can you exercise every single day for at least 30 minutes to an hour? How can you work out, whether it's doing the yoga, whether it's walking, whether it's jogging, whether it's exercising with your kids or your spouse? And then socially, what can you do? Maybe you can't go visit your friends right now, but you can call them, right? You can call them. You can Zoom with them. Maybe you can't go out on a date with your wife or your husband to a restaurant, but maybe you can have a date at home, a date night at home, and a dinner and a movie. You can create that. So it's just adapting. It's not putting all our eggs in one basket, all our eggs in the teaching basket. It's looking at it as 1/4 of our life. It is 25% of our happiness and our well-being. There are 3 other aspects to our life. So we got to go after each one of those. And I think that's how we survive in this time. That's how we thrive in this time. And that's how we come out of the other side stronger and better, well-balanced.
Definitely. Well said. I mean, I think a lot of people might, really, really benefit with that because, coming from where you were to where you are now, it's like I've seen so many teachers in similar situations where they're putting in 50, 60, 70 hours and just not taking that time for themselves, and they're going to end themselves burning out, and whatever the case may be. So
you got to look at it like, do you really want to just influence, a few dozen or a few hundred students, or do you want to impact a few thousand students, right? Because if you can find that happiness across the 4 domains, things open up for you, and you're able to impact kids for a very long time, and you're not just kind of fizzling out, fizzling in, and then quitting the profession, right? So yeah, you got to take the long range view of this.
Definitely. So as we wrap up today, Justin, any, you want to plug anything that you're working on, social media, anything like that?
So, I mean, I'm on Facebook, on Instagram. I don't really like to do a lot of the self-promotion personally. I try to be a 300 guy, so I'm not really good at that. But
teachers have side hustles, man.
I did do a webinar with Ed Webb recently called Catching Happiness. It's on the Free Spirit website if you want to check it out. It's also on the Ed Webb website. And we've gotten some good feedback about that. But no, Robert, I really appreciate talking with you. I love your energy, man. You're funny, you're positive, and you guys. It's just really good to touch base with you and talk with you this morning.
That's the thing. That's why, you said you're the water boy. I'm the water boy. Put this all together. Don't tell.
You be the water boy. I'll be the towel boy. Okay, we'll each. I'll do the laundry for the.
I know someone will see this, but Jetter, Jetter's gonna rank us. It's like, if you're the water boy, I don't know if I'm the water boy, but rank us. Be like, no, Ashley's the water boy. You're this and you're that. Justin, I appreciate you, man. We're gonna sign off today. Definitely, I want to say thank you for everyone chipping in, watching. Definitely, recovery mode is something that we're all going to talk. We're all talking about. All education is talking about this. Pushboundconsulting.com. Definitely, this is our ebook, 158-page free document talking about everything in education right now, what we're all going through. This should be in the hands of teachers, administrators, anyone, and everyone, basically, because everyone has a friend or a kid or a son, daughter, or whatever, and this is going to touch everybody. So definitely, Justin, I appreciate your time, man. Please be safe. We'll talk soon. Please be safe, and definitely, we'll talk soon, and keep up the good work, man. Definitely, this is a great chapter from you, and who knows? Recovery mode part 2. You might have the chapter of the water boy.
I like it. I'll take it. We'll co-author that together, both.
Yeah, we'll co-author that together and just be like, this is what we want. We want.
Right. Thanks, Robert. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sue, brother. Talk to the other.